Just a few days after the Guardians shipped out their platinum glove second baseman Andres Gimenez, they completed a full trade of the right side of the infield. Their first baseman, Josh Naylor, he's a Diamondback. You guys have been spamming me on social media. Fuzzy, what's your opinion on this trade? Did you get fleeced? What do you make of this? Well, that's what today's video is for. But I'm going to save that for later in the video because we actually have another breaking trade to talk about. Jesús Luzardo, he's no longer a Marlin. Jesús is a Philadelphia Philly. But let's talk about what Miami got in return before we talk about Luzardo going to Philly. Buying a hat for every team in baseball has been the greatest investment I've ever made. All right, let's talk about the Marlins. Why does it look like someone was drooling on my hat? What is going on? All right, that looks a little bit better, but let's talk about the full trade for starting pitcher Jesús Luzardo. The Marlins, they are trying to acquire almost every prospect in baseball, it seems like. They are picking up two prospects from the Phillies. The first one, 19-year-old shortstop Starlyn Caba. I don't exactly know how to say his whole name because I just found out he existed 5 seconds ago. Starlyn Caba instantly slots in as the number 3 prospect for the Marlins, and the entire farm system for the Marlins has completely been revamped because of Peter Bendix. I mean, he's been making trades left and right. Everyone is in play right now, even Sandy Alcantara. I'm going to say that. Is it Alcantara? It's Alcantara, sorry. Starlyn has absolutely no pop thus far in his young minor league career, but he puts the ball in play, he takes his walks, and he can wreak havoc on the bases. So that's kind of the theme for the two prospects that are going back to the Marlins. They can play their position and they're really, really fast. Same for the 21-year-old outfield prospect, Emaarion Boyd. Now, if I say their age, they might not be that exact age right now, but that's going to be their age for the 2025 season. So remember that context. Emaarion Boyd is pretty much the exact same story as Starlyn. Absolutely no pop to begin his minor league career, but maybe they can grow into their bodies and put on some muscle. But Boyd can flat out motor around the bases as well. He doesn't walk as much as Starlyn, but hey, Miami, they are simply looking for toolsy, athletic guys to form a super team in the future with the power guys that they acquired with a Devicion, De Los Santos, and Agustin Ramirez from the Yankees. They're trying to get some auxiliary pieces around the big power bats that they've acquired. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's talk about the Phillies now. So the Phillies actually picked up two different players. I'll talk about 27-year-old catcher Paul McIntosh. Sorry again, I've never heard of these guys before. Paul McIntosh, he is a solid bat for a catching prospect. Last year, he had 12 home runs and a 118 WRC plus. That's just another version of OPS plus. Don't overcomplicate it. But at AA, again, a 120-ish WRC plus, 12 home runs. We are not looking at the JT Realmuto replacement. Do not get it twisted. But could he come up and have a few spot starts? Yeah. But the big fish in this trade, yes, full pun intended, a former Marlin. He's going to the Phillies now. 27-year-old starting pitcher Jesús Luzardo. He's kind of a Cody Bellinger-esque type of trade because Bellinger and Luzardo both regressed in 2024 based off their stats and their health updates. You have to remember that Luzardo and Bellinger are former top prospects, and they've shown flashes of greatness throughout their young careers. So Jesús Luzardo had a 3.3 ERA and a near 11 strikeouts per 9 in 2022. In 2023, he had similar strikeout numbers and a 3.6 ERA, so nothing otherworldly like an MVP belly. But all of that aside, maybe that comparison doesn't even make sense. 2024 was a year to forget for Jesús Luzardo because he could not stay healthy, and because of that, he had a huge dip in his strikeout percentage. His strikeouts dropped almost 8%. Now, when healthy, Luzardo and that fastball slider combination is lethal because Jesús throws 97, 98, 99 as a starting pitcher. I think I've seen him hit triple digits a few times throughout his young career. The changeup even looked better last year than the years prior. So when the Phillies can go Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Jesús Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez. That means no more Taijuan Walker. Christmas came early for Phillies fans. Taijuan Walker, you are a Colorado Rocky. Philadelphia is still very much a juggernaut powerhouse of a team. That starting rotation is absolutely bananas, and you have to remember that they've kept Andrew Painter, who could be a future Garrett Cole type of starting pitcher ace guy. Mick Abel, also a similar build. Justin Crawford, Aiden Miller. They've kept all of their top prospects who could be big-time players pretty soon. I don't know anything about Starlyn Caba or Emaarion Boyd, so if you're a Marlins fan, I just simply want to say, dude, I'm so sorry. 2025 is going to be rough unless these guys shock the world and they're just really good out the gate, even at a young age. I don't know what the Marlins are doing, but I guess the process is trust Peter Bendix because he used to be with the Rays, and we know what the Rays do with players that we don't really know about. So that's the Jesús Luzardo to the Phillies trade in a nutshell. Now for the moment that you've all been waiting for, let's see a Guardians reaction to Josh Naylor being shipped out to the Diamondbacks. Currently, Josh Naylor is 27 years old, but by the time that the 2025 season comes around, he'll be 28 years old. Now let me try and explain Josh Naylor and his career thus far in Cleveland. So he was acquired from the Padres a few years ago. He was in that big Franmil Reyes, Mike Clevenger trade. Also, I completely forgot about this, but that knuckleballer that we all know and love in MLB The Show, Matt Waldron, he was sent from Cleveland with Mike Clevenger for Josh Naylor. The more you know. But anyways, Josh Naylor really struggled to begin his career with the Guardians, but in 2022, he found his stride. He popped off for 20 home runs and a 120 OPS plus. He got even better out of nowhere. He looked like a contact hitter. He hit 310 in 2023 with a whopping 130 OPS plus. Then this past season in 2024, he was an RBI machine. He had 31 home runs and 108 RBIs. And defensively, I know he's not great with the range or anything like that, but take it from me as a guy who watched Josh Naylor pretty often, he's fantastic at scoops and picks. He's great at that over there at first base. So if someone makes a bad throw, he's going to make up for it. And that's why people are asking, Fuzzy, what do you make of this trade? Where are you going to find that power production in your minor league system? Or do you think you're going to go grab another guy? Well, yes, the Guardians already replaced Josh Naylor. Before we talk about that replacement, let's talk about the cons of Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor had an awful second half of 2024. He had a 717 OPS in the second half, and that's just a smidge better than his career OPS of 682 in the postseason. He had some of the worst at-bats I've ever seen. His pitch recognition seemingly has gotten worse every single season. He barely bats .220 versus lefties, and he's a free agent after next year. So I don't know if this is going to be a rental for the Diamondbacks, and then they give the keys to the city to a different guy. Maybe they shuffle some guys around. A lot of Guardians fans have weighed in and said, hey, Diamondbacks fans, a con that you have to consider, and I fluctuate with my weight a lot, so I've struggled with my weight all my life, so I'm not judging, but the Josh Naylor weight arc, it's interesting. But when Josh Naylor is going right and he's able to play a full 150-ish games, and maybe weight had something to do with him dipping off in the second half, he's insane when healthy. He had 20 home runs, 58 RBIs, and an 840 OPS in his first 72 games last year. That's very, very good production. You can't find that very often from a 27-year-old first baseman. Maybe you don't think it's fair to criticize his weight, but when you're playing that many games at a premium position, you want to make sure that if you're investing that much into a guy, that he can make it a full 162 and then into October. I think that's fair, but I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's out of bounds, Fuzzy. Dude, I struggle with my weight. I get it. So that is the Christian Walker replacement in Arizona, Josh Naylor. Who is the Josh Naylor replacement in Cleveland? Well, right now it seems to be Carlos Santana. This will be his third stint with Cleveland. He's going to be 39 years old, and he absolutely mashed lefties last year. So he's getting $12 million to most likely be a platoon DH first baseman with Kyle Manzardo. Check this out. Santana hit .290 with a 935 OPS plus versus lefties. 935 OPS plus, that would be insane. Sorry about that. A 935 OPS versus lefties last year. He also won a Gold Glove, so he can maybe shed some wisdom onto Kyle Manzardo, who's not very good defensively. Like, hey, Kyle, this is how you pick it. This is how you go backhand. This is how you know how far to get off once you're not covering your position anymore. He's a valuable commodity, and I'm down with this. Kyle Manzardo versus righties. Carlos Santana shedding his defensive wisdom on Manzo and raking lefties. Yes, sir, that replaces Naylor right there. But now let's talk about who the Guardians got in return for Josh Naylor. So the first small thing, they get a competitive B pick. It's a draft pick. It's usually like a second, third, fourth round pick. But let's focus on 26-year-old Slade Cecconi, one of my favorite names in baseball. He was a first rounder back in 2020, so he's got first round pedigree. He doesn't walk anyone, and his fastball can get up to 98 miles an hour. But the problem is, we just talked about he doesn't walk anyone. Sometimes he has the same issue as Emmanuel Clase. He's too accurate. He throws too many strikes. But here's one little wrinkle that I discovered about Slade Cecconi. Two teams tried to acquire him over the last year. Cleveland and the Tampa Bay Rays. Who do we know as the pitching factories in baseball? The Rays and the Guardians. So what do those two franchises see in Slade? Well, he's 6'4", he's young, so there's a lot of team control. He has elite extension. Let me try and explain extension. So again, Slade throws about 96 on average, but he can get up to 98 miles an hour. Extension simply is how far are you extending towards home plate before you throw the ball? So basically, if you have two guys who throw 98, but one guy has longer extension, the perceived velocity of the guy with longer extension might actually be 100 miles an hour, even though it's not 100 miles an hour, but the perceived velocity, you have less time to see it, it's perceived at a higher velocity. Science. I mean, we just saw Cleveland turn Matthew Boyd into prime Sandy Koufax, and they made Ben Lively almost look like an ace. Yeah, you're telling me 26-year-old former first-rounder Slade Cecconi is going to the pitching lab, the Voodoo Magic Guardians? Yeah, sign me up. Some might call it a fleece job. I think that Josh Naylor is going to be an absolute maniac with the Arizona Diamondbacks, but we were never going to retain him. That's not how the Guardians work. They don't like guys who chase. That's why Andres Gimenez is gone. That's why Josh Naylor is gone, and they're going to rely on a Kyle Manzardo, Carlos Santana platoon at first base. They're going to rely on a Juan Brito, an offensive first, second baseman, and who knows, maybe we see the super prospect Chase DeLauder, who a lot of people are saying could be the next Kyle Tucker out there in right field. If those hit, damn. So let me know, do you think that the Guardians took too long to ship out Naylor? Maybe they should have traded him last year, kind of like how they botched the Lindor trade. They traded him a year too late. And what do you think about Josh Naylor replacing Walker, at least for 2025, on the Diamondbacks? He's pretty much 80% of Christian Walker offensively. Defensively, they're not close at all, but hey, a solid little bridge going into 2026. And last but not least, the guy who made the rookie movie come to real life, Cam Booser. He retired in 2017. He was a carpenter in Seattle, living a normal life before he found out during a youth camp that he could still throw 97, 98. He's been traded from the Red Sox to the White Sox, so another Sox for Sox trade. I just wanted to bring him up because, again, he's kind of like the rookie movie come to real life. He had a 2.9 ERA in the first half after making his debut at 32 years old, fell off in the second half, and I'm hoping that he can regain that first half self and be dealt to a contender after the All-Star break. That would be a lot of fun.